Mark Rogers here to knock out some power rankings. I go to the SEC, what I consider to be the best conference in college football, and give you a power ranking 1 through 14. So let me tell you what this is and what it is not. It is not my projection of the standings at the end of the season. It's not my projection of the national rankings at the end of the season. I have not reviewed schedules going forward to try to project the standings. This is also not necessarily my list of the best team to the worst team. This is based on results. Results, games 1 through 4. So I'm not projecting ahead. So the teams that have played and beaten the best teams, number one, that's the number one criteria. Who did you beat? Number two, who did you play? And number three, how well did you play? So there could be some 2-2 teams above a 3-1 or possibly a 4-0 team if they played a really tough competition and they played well. They lost close games. So there are good losses factored in this. But number one, first and foremost, is who did you play and who did you beat? So starting at number 14, clearly the worst team in the SEC through 4 games is Vanderbilt. Coming off a substantial effort against Ole Miss, they played pretty well in that game, but Vanderbilt is at number 14. At number 13, I've got Arkansas. They are only 1-3. The Hogs are just 1-3, but they looked good, relatively speaking. Did not win the games, but they played a decent Texas Tech team tough, and most notably lost in overtime to an undefeated Texas A&M team. Arkansas at 13. Got South Carolina at number 12. Lost most recently to Kentucky. Defeated Central Florida. And also North Carolina, a decent team out of the ACC. South Carolina is number 12. At number 11, we get the slight nod to Auburn over South Carolina based on the losses to LSU. It was not pretty, but it was against LSU on the road. And more recently, in outgaining Mississippi State, they lost to the Bulldogs at home. Of course, Auburn's got a decent win over Louisville. They struggled against Jacksonville State. Auburn at 2-2 is at number 11. I've got Mizzou at number 10. The Tigers are 3-1. The lone loss to Kentucky last week, but they haven't beaten anyone. So Mizzou gets some credit for the 3 wins against nobody. The 1 loss against Kentucky, the first decent team that they've played. And right ahead of Mizzou, you got Kentucky. So Kentucky has lost to Florida at home. Their most significant win against Mizzou. Kentucky 3-1 at number 9. Tennessee, I've got ranked ahead of Kentucky based on results. Look at it. Oklahoma, a top 15 team, losing to Oklahoma in overtime and losing a heartbreaker. Outplayed Florida for most of the game, but lost in Gainesville. But I give credit to substantial efforts against Oklahoma and Florida, and then the 1 win against a decent Bowling Green team. So Tennessee's number 8 right now. Mississippi State, I've got at 7, coming off the win against Auburn. They also have an extremely close loss against LSU at home by 2 points. They attempted the game-winning field goal against LSU, or Mississippi State would be undefeated. The Bulldogs at number 7. At number 6, you got Alabama. They beat Wisconsin. Good neutral site win. They lost to Ole Miss, who could be the best team in the country. So Alabama's at number 6. They do have the 1 loss, again, to Ole Miss, and the 1 decent win, good solid win against a top 20 Wisconsin team. Number 5, Georgia, they're 4-0. Flat out 4-0, and they've been dominant in those 4 games. So if they were 4-0 and it squeaked by bad teams, then they would have dropped in the poll, but they've been dominant, but have yet to play anyone. That changes very quickly coming Saturday against Alabama in Athens. Okay, number 4, I got Florida. Now, so for example, do I believe that Florida's better than Georgia? No, I do not. I believe Georgia's better than the Florida Gators, but I've got the Gators ranked higher because they're 4-0 against quality competition. They've got 2 wins against Kentucky and Tennessee, and now if you go back another week before that against East Carolina, and the Pirates just beat Virginia Tech. So that is easing its way into a quality opponent and quality win for Florida, but definitely against Kentucky and Tennessee, the Gators are 4-0. Okay, LSU I've got at number 3. The win against Syracuse. The Orange aren't that tough, but they were 3-0. And then, of course, the wins over Mississippi State on the road and a throttling of Auburn. So LSU's undefeated at 3-0, got them at number 3. Texas A&M, I've rated these wins a little bit better than LSU in defeating Arizona State, neutral site, and against Arkansas as well, neutral site. Texas A&M undefeated, having a little bit better wins than LSU at number 2. And finally, Ole Miss. Yeah, they got 3 pretty easy wins. Fresno State, I believe Tennessee Martin, and the game against Vanderbilt. So that doesn't wow anyone. But they annihilated those teams, number 1. 2 of those 3 teams. The Vanderbilt slip up, we'll let that go. That still turned out to be a 10 or 11 point win. But Ole Miss has maybe the best win in the country right now, arguably on the road at Alabama. Rebels win in Tuscaloosa, defeat the Tide for a second straight year, and so Ole Miss we've got at number 1. Those are the Mark Rogers TV Power Rankings. Would love to hear from you on your SEC Power Rankings right here on Mark Rogers TV.